Hey, welcome to Minor Details. I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
And we are two industrial designers in New York City.
We are. This is true. These are facts. Nobody sent us a tagline.
No.
Thanks a lot.
But that's not bad. We are two industrial designers in New York City. It's to the point.
Yeah.
Might not be the most exciting tagline.
Nick and James were two young industrial designers in New York City. And little did they know, they were about to start a podcast.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's James's radio voice.
Yeah, that's my movie trailer voice.
But
this is a romantic comedy about us moving to New York, starting a podcast, and finding love.
That's our movie next year. We're starting a movie.
Yes, we are kickstarting a movie. Production starts regardless of how much we get in September. You know, all the streets in New York are going to be shut down.
Right.
So everybody's an extra. If you're walking around, you've given us license to use you in the movie.
Speaking of movies, I've been doing some video stuff this week, James.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I've been redoing my space, as you can see if you're watching the YouTube video.
Yes.
I've decorated a little bit. I've made the corner of my room a bit nicer. I guess it was like this last week, but I've improved some of the other parts of my room.
This space. Oh, I thought you meant your MySpace.
Oh, no, James.
You weren't redoing your MySpace?
No.
Okay.
James.
Okay. I'm on board. Got it.
Oh, man, you're living back in 2000. But I pinned up some sketches, which you can't really see in the video, but I'm sure you guys will see it soon. And I also pinned up this entire back wall with foam, like acoustic foam.
Yeah. So now I don't sound like I'm recording from the balcony.
Right, from the bottom of a barrel or something. I know there's been some comments that James sounds like he's 5 feet away from the mic, and I don't know how to fix it, guys. We just need an audio technician or something.
I got a message recently that said that my audio sounds a lot better.
That's good. We've been working on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been working on my Patreon thing. I did a recording of my chair sketch because that was a very highly requested thing. People want to see how I sketch my chairs.
So are you saying that you are actually filming your iPad?
Yes.
It's not just the time lapse and you talking over it.
No, it was a 2-hour long video with my iPhone, sketching on the iPad, with the pencil and everything, and doing some narration to it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about editing it, but I think that would be I think that'd be a lot of editing to edit out 2 hours.
I know a video editor that comes at a reasonable price.
You want to edit a 2-hour long sketch video? I'm going to start a
Patreon to edit your videos.
A Patreon for my Patreon.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, did we mention Patreon in the last episode?
I think we did.
It's like a Kickstarter for like makers that you can pay a monthly like $5, and I provide you guys with extra exclusive content.
Yeah.
But the one thing I learned is that making an hour-long video with your iPhone takes up 7 gigabytes of space.
Yeah.
And my iPhone only has 3 gigabytes of free space. So
did it cut out in the middle?
Multiple times, and it was a struggle.
Well, you're also holding out with your 6.
Yeah, iPhone 6. I'm waiting for the next one.
I don't understand. I usually go in a two-year cycle.
I think a majority of people do a 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
I'm on my 3rd year. I like to think of it as not only a cost-effective option, but also an environmentally friendly option.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So you're better than us. Well, they also have this new, we might have talked about this before, but they have this new program where you are basically in like the iPhone club and they send you a new one when it comes out.
Right.
You just pay monthly.
Right. And that's the one that's the worst for the environment because you get the newest one every single time.
Is it the worst, or is it the best because Apple is then recycling the phone?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. They obviously recycle their phones when you send them back, but there's still energy that goes into manufacturing and stuff. That's a whole nother topic. We still haven't tackled our sustainability topic.
We have a little bit.
We've done bits and pieces.
And I'm surprised that it didn't start the flame war that I thought it might have.
Oh, we should go full on.
Oh, gosh, let me tell you, Nick. I have to tell you about a flame war that apparently I've started.
Yeah.
Which is, I just one night when I got back from vacation, I decided, hey, I'm going to sketch up some coffee tampers.
Right.
I make cappuccinos every morning for the wife and I.
In the espresso machine, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And apparently all I'm doing by by displaying these concepts is displaying my ignorance when it comes to coffee tamping.
You never dive into coffee world because it's some high stakes stuff.
Yeah, the coffee world. I mean, I should have known better.
You're either a coffee snob or a peasant in that world.
Yes, because that's the thing is like I am clearly not doing the proper tamping.
There's no middle ground. There is no middle ground. You are a peasant.
Yeah. So I put out these tampers yesterday that were sort of refined. I did like a sketch round of concepts, and then I did an Illustrator round.
I actually noticed the Illustrator round because I thought it was unique how you just the aesthetic style of those concepts. And forgive me if I'm wrong. Did you do those on your iPhone?
I did not.
Oh, but it was done with Adobe Illustrator?
Yeah, it was done with Illustrator.
Oh, I thought I saw some sort of app that you had posted about in the comments.
Oh, I don't
some vector app.
Oh, no. I called out a vector Instagram
inspiration.
Yeah, well, just to say like, hey, like there are a vector Instagram that will repost vector images.
Got it. Okay.
That people create.
Okay.
So there is an app. I think it's called Assembly. That's like for your phone, and it's a vector based creation app, which is kind of cool. I've played around with it a little bit. Because I'm always looking for those underdogs, that underdog software.
Right.
Because like Adobe, who's coming after Adobe?
We don't want to support those big fat cats.
No way. Yeah, chewing on their cigars up in their ivory towers. So I released that, and so all of my tampers on the bottom were kind of these half spheres. And somebody was saying that the reason that there's a platform on the tamper is for your fingers, for you to apply even pressure with your fingers. So the top of the tamp, the handle goes into your palm, and then your fingers go on that pedestal.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea.
Wow.
No idea.
So you get completely even pressure.
Yeah. But this is to your point. Is this just the nitty gritty? Are we talking to the experts here?
I'm about to make all the experts cry because I have a cheapo $30 Amazon espresso machine.
Yes.
And it doesn't even come with a tamper. It comes with a spoon that you scoop with, and the bottom of the spoon is flat. So I just kind of like press it in there, scooch it around, press it down, and it works.
Yeah, well, I had one of those originally. That came with my espresso machine, and then I bought a tamper because I was like, I'm going to be legit.
It is actually something that I've been wanting to like get or make or something. It seems like something I could 3D print easily.
Yeah,
I don't know how clean it would be, but
yeah, I think it's important that the bottom is
smooth.
Smooth.
Isn't there a tool that you can add holes into the espresso?
Maybe.
Puck.
I don't know. We're really displaying our ignorance right now. The experts are going, why? They're over caffeinated, just yelling at their screens.
They're throwing their iPhones right now.
Yeah, throwing their iPhones across the subway. But yeah, I mean, so today, in response to this even pressure thing, I thought, well, what if I do something a little bit different? So I made this tamper that it's a tamper, but then there's essentially a loop that comes off of it down below the tamper, so you're pulling down on it.
That's crazy, James.
And I was like, well, maybe this, like, rather than pushing down, maybe pulling down would provide...
You might get even more even pressure.
More even pressure. But then now people are saying that what you're supposed to do with the tamper or with the portafilter is put it on a counter and then push down so the counter is providing. I've never done that. I've always been just in my holding it up in the air.
But then your response to that is you just make like a wall mount system that you can just pull.
It should just be like one of those can crushers.
There you go. See, we're game changing here.
I don't know. Honestly, I think I might just end up going back to one of the simple ones that I was doing on the second round.
I think it's fine. I also think you should make one, and I'll buy one from you, James, because I need one.
Yeah, that one, I don't know. I could keep diving into these concepts, but I feel like we should move on because honestly, like from one flame war to another, Did you see the new Logitech mouse, Nick?
Yeah, I saw this. I think it was on Fast Company. I saw an article, and Logitech, of course, we love their design. They've been putting out some good design lately, and they recently put out a new, very ergonomic mouse.
Yeah,
and it's kind of unique in the way that it has some similarities to your mouse concept that you did, I don't know, a couple months ago.
Yeah,
we actually talked about your mouse a little bit on the podcast.
Yes,
but yeah, just refresh everyone's memory. What did your mouse look like?
Oh, it was a volcano.
It was a volcano shape, but it also had the slot. It was like a slotted volcano shape, right?
It was, it was like a volcano to a pill.
Yeah, volcano to a pill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it was, I would say, as compared to the Logitech mouse, I would say it's a lot more vertical and symmetrical as compared to the Logitech.
Right. So the Logitech is similar in yours, that it had that pill shape at the top, but the Logitech one was also slanted, and it had a lot more curvature on it, so it kind of filled in your hand.
Yeah.
Essentially, instead of like resting your hand on the table, you're kind of resting the pinky side of your hand on the mouse, kind of like you're sliding on an oven mitt in a way.
Right.
And that's how the Logitech one works, and that's how yours worked too.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I liked about yours that I didn't like about the Logitech is that yours was left-right-handed.
Yeah.
Ambidextrous.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the details that I was kind of, I guess, in love with in a way with my own, which is never good when you fall in love with details or ideas, but the scroll wheel went around the front of the mouse to the other side. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of this full ring, so you could use it left or right-handed. Right. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that the Logitech one is probably a lot more successful in terms of ergonomics than mine was.
Yeah, I would say that the Logitech looks more comfortable. I haven't tried it yet.
Because I think that, I mean, I don't know. I think that like it achieved the angle that everybody was yelling at me to put on my mouse. And I feel like with that angle, it's very difficult to make a mouse that's for left and right-handers.
Right. And that is the drawback of doing that, the ambidextrous mouses, is that when you do an ambidextrous mouse, it's just off the bat going to be slightly less ergonomic than a right-handed or left-handed.
Right. But I do I like that the Logitech mouse, it doesn't look overly ergonomic. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's...
because there are a ton of those really funky looking ergonomic ones.
Yeah.
But this one had this nice kind of smooth sweeping curve to it.
Right.
It actually had, I think, a subtle texture on it.
Yeah, it's got kind of
like facets or something.
Yeah, it's almost I would say it's almost like an Yves Bahar pattern.
Right.
Facet pattern. Yeah, kind of like those Movado watches that they put out, and but it's it's pretty nice. I would say I'm really interested in what Logitech has been up to recently with the designs that they've been producing, because they completely changed course in terms of their design language.
From the olden days, or just recently?
From the olden days.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's really admirable. I think it's one of these companies that actually saw that design was important and implemented it. And you see a bunch of other, like, there's no other, like Dell or like all these other companies that are making mice and keyboards. They don't care. They just make like whatever, But Logitech's like, no, we're going to have a certain aesthetic, and it's going to be a great aesthetic.
Right. They even changed the logo,
it's just
which I thought was a nice...
Logi now.
Yeah, which I thought was a nice update. I think it's just almost like a smiley face under the G.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're the case of a company that I think a lot of companies kind of give lip service to this whole like design matters thing.
Yeah.
But they seem to have a real concerted effort to change course.
Right. And it's not only the effort, but it's also it seems like a very clear direction that they're going towards, too.
Right.
It's not like they're saying, oh, we'll make keyboards that look like Apple.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, let's just make things like sleek and clean. They're like, no, we're Logitech. we're going to create this Logitech branded aesthetic.
Right.
And it's this kind of pill shapes, very kind of soft look.
Yeah.
But also like this kind of new age retro tech look.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Ben Bento Box, the guy that.
The blog.
Yeah, the blog that I brought up during that one episode. He is a designer at Logitech, and I think he did that keyboard with the the concrete looking rubberized slot.
Yeah, like it had like speckled look to it.
So good.
Beautiful.
Oh man, speaking of speckled, something that we haven't talked about yet is blue foam dust.
Yeah.
The latest craze to hit the industrial design Instagram world.
I've seen it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I think it's great. I mean, I wish that I had gotten on that boat before it left the harbor.
We called for memes last week too.
Yes.
And where are the memes, guys? Send us memes. We want memes of ourselves.
Well, I don't know. Are we really going to call out blue foam dust to meme us?
Well, I'm not calling specifically blue foam dust, but I am saying that you guys should take this YouTube video and like chop it up and do something with it, right?
Yes.
Isn't that what the internet does?
I would love to see that. But just to shift back for a second to the Logitech thing, I think it's interesting that we see a lot these days accessory brands that are that have elevated themselves to the level of what I would consider really nice design.
Mm-hmm.
Like Logitech is essentially an accessories brand.
Yeah.
Belkin has produced some really nice stuff, and Native Union.
Ooh, that's a good one right there. Native Union, they do like iPhone cables and iPhone accessories.
Yeah.
But it has, again, that very directional aesthetic. Like, hey, we're Native Union. We're going to make our own brand. But it's beautiful design. I mean, it's very clean and simple.
Yeah, I love it. I love that it brings these sort of like natural textures to like phone cases like that, just like a wood veneer or even concrete or like a concrete-ish material.
I really like the one Apple Watch stand they did. It was simply a block, like a cube, and then on top of the cube was a cylinder.
Yeah.
Very geometric, very simple.
Yeah.
But it obviously just fits an Apple Watch on top of the cylinder.
Right.
Simple as that.
Yeah. And when you don't have an Apple Watch on it, it just kind of blends in.
And then there's Noli. Noli, Benjamin Hubert's brand.
Right.
He did the new like charging and power bank cases and everything.
Yeah, there is some really nice stuff there. I mean, it's I think it's great. I think any company that's taking on that kind of mindset, because accessories, often I feel like it's this sourcing game.
It's an afterthought.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, everyone's excited about the big product, and then everyone's like, oh, but we need an external battery, but no one really cares because like it's just an external battery.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to see all these like companies really pushing the game on it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty wonderful. But Nick, I think it's time for the big topic.
Yeah, we have a topic this week.
Yeah.
What's the topic, James?
Model making and 3D printing. And we're talking about physical model making, I guess, versus 3D printing, or when is one appropriate?
Right.
Or
so, like,
can one replace the other?
Like in general, it's this idea of we have these new digital fabrication tools, whether it be 3D printing, laser cutting, whatever it is, versus the old-fashioned, carving foam, going into the wood shop, building something.
Mm-hmm.
And are we losing a bit of that magic that happens in the shop with 3D printing and with laser cutting and things like that?
Yeah.
And I mean, me, I love making things. I'm a big maker. At SCAD, we made every single product we designed, and like I stand by the model making thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Like, I think that digital fabrication tools are very helpful as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say for myself, it was a struggle for me to get into the shop.
Yeah.
To like push myself to get into the shop.
In terms of the fact that it was really far away, or like...
No, in terms of the fact that I was uncomfortable in the shop.
Oh, like with the tools.
Yes.
Because there's dangerous tools in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the mindset of how to construct something, like in terms of building out a model of a form, especially like, you know, in school when you're making like very organic forms or whatever, that the whole process of thinking through how to execute that, where, you know, and in conjunction, like having learned CAD and learning how to build those forms within CAD and then trying to figure out how to do that in the shop,
it's a whole step.
There was a disconnect for me.
For sure.
Because I grew up mostly just kind of like drawing and dreaming.
Right.
And there was no real, I wouldn't say that like there were any handy people in my family.
I see.
So there was no like, oh, we're going to build something this weekend.
Oh, my dad, he's the handy person in my family. He'll take anything and put duct tape and some few drywall screws in it and make it it could lift a car if you, I don't know even what it is, but like we've made so much stuff when I was a kid.
So, I mean,
I think it's like a kind of a thing you're raised on.
Right.
In a way.
Yeah. So, I mean, for you, Nick, do you feel like that 3D printing could never replace physical model making?
No, I think it is replacing physical model making. I think like this day and age, like students aren't carving blue foam anymore. They're just like 3D printing stuff.
But my question is that a good thing in your mind?
In my mind, I think maybe I'm a bit romantic, but I think it's a bit of a bad thing. I know you had sent me this image of Knack Design Studio.
Yeah.
They were creating a set of cutlery and spoon or tableware, flatware.
Yeah, flatware.
Spoon, knife, fork, and you're like, look at this, look at these. I think this is how design process should be done. I was like, I think the design's great, but I kind of disagree with you because what they did is they 3D printed the fork and the spoon and the knife.
Yeah.
And they were very sculpted forms, right? The handles were very curvilinear. And I was like, I kind of feel like the process I would have liked to seen a whole like spread of, foam models that were carved and curved by hand, and then evaluated those. And once you evaluate them, you can kind of tweak them and stuff.
Yeah. And
then go into 3D printing. Because I think there's a missing step there. In my opinion, I think the design's great. Like, good job, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that project for the analysis of a brand and the brand language and sort of like the subtlety between forms. Because sometimes you can think about like doing a flatware project and you're like, oh God, like everybody, like they've done everything.
Oh yeah. Well, also I love flatware, so I'd be all about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm, I don't know. A couple things came to mind. I mean, I think, I mean, when it comes to that kind of scale, especially with model making, I would fear like as I'm modeling something that fine, I would just end up snapping something. Or
you got the Dremel out and you just go,
yeah,
and it just goes straight through.
Yeah. But it kind of reminds me of something that I started doing when I was doing kitchenwares, which was, I mean, we were 3D printing all the time. We were often in CAD all day, print overnight, come in, evaluate.
Right. And to be fair, that's how we did it at PetMate too. And really, any of the big companies you work at now, 3D printing is pretty much the standard. You don't do a lot of foam modeling unless you want to, I guess.
Yeah.
I did a little bit at PetMate just because I think we mentioned it. I was doing the leashes where it was very tactile with your hand. And I just felt like 3D printing would not give me that instant feedback that I needed.
Right.
But you were doing a lot of that at the kitchenware company.
Yeah, I was doing that, but I was also, I found some clay, and I was actually packing clay onto the models, and then using that to alter the form.
I like that.
I
can get behind that.
Because I think that there's, I don't know, I think that, I also remember at Peloton, when they were developing the treadmill, which is launched, a lot of what they were doing was they would print out sort of the shape of the tread.
Yeah.
Because they weren't iterating on that. They were iterating on the arms and the back.
Right.
And so, and they were doing these small scale models.
Okay.
So they were just printing out these guys and then building off of that.
Would they build 3D prints or clay?
They were using foam.
Oh, foam.
They were cutting foam.
Like foam core or like
foam core.
Okay.
Like foam boards.
Right.
Which I thought was really nice because basically you could just if my memory serves me, I think that this is what happened. But yeah, you could print out a bunch of, it was basically like a pill-shaped extrusion for the tread.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then, you print a bunch of those out and then you just start building models off of that.
Right.
So I think that there's this really nice mix of things that you can do now. I mean, I remember at Quirky, I was using the laser cutter like mad. I actually, and this is a tip for people that are going into internships. One of the things that I did during that internship was, and I think Reed was actually the one who talked about this with me before I went into the internship, was he kind of had this idea of go into an internship and say to the person, this is something that I really want to learn how to do better. And just that sort of initiative. I think I remember going to one of the designers at Quirky and saying to him, I really want to get better at model making. Mm-hmm. And his face immediately lit up and he was like, awesome. We have to make models they had to make models for all of their rendering photo shoots because they would do at the end of an initial design cycle, when they posted the sort of finalish idea to the site, they would do a photo shoot but then they would have models in place.
Right.
And then they would superimpose them with renderings.
Yeah.
And so I started doing all of those models.
And were they just cardboard or foam core models?
Yeah, they were really simple. They were either foam or cardboard or I use a lot of hot glue and a lot of cardboard. And
here's another model making thing that we hadn't touched on yet is the cardboard. Visibility Studio?
Yes.
I always see them posting their cardboard models.
Yeah.
I don't see foam models or anything. They're always doing cardboard, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's a different aesthetic. And for me, I think there's a certain degree of using the best material for the job.
Right.
Foam is great for things that are very curvature, like surfacing, trying to get those surfaces right. Maybe something that fits in your hand,
mm-hmm.
Something very surface heavy. But a larger object that maybe is more rectilinear, I think cardboard or foam core is great.
Right.
And then 3D printing, like you said, you could do small miniature 3D printed models. But yeah, here's another thing that I've been thinking about too.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what side you're on, building or not building the final prototype, I think there is, like you were saying, James, it's tough to design something in CAD, render it out, and then realize I need to go to the shop, and then on top of that, figure out how to make it. That's a whole nother step
mm-hmm.
of the design process. But I think there's a lot of value in just learning how things are made.
Right.
When you have to make it yourself.
Right.
And regardless of whether or not you'll get to do that in the real world, or if you are doing it in the real world, I think that just understanding how things are cut, how things are manufactured, how things are fabricated, and having that hands-on experience has a lot of value to it.
Yeah.
And that's still why I'm a big champion of that physical aspect to design process.
Right. Do you ever feel like, when you're talking about how you would advocate for that type of process, I think about the types of things that I advocate for in the design process, and sometimes I wonder, am I somebody who's now shouting in the face of progress? Like, are
we those old fogies now?
Yeah, because occasionally I'll get sort of the instruction to do a certain thing a certain way, and my initial feeling is like, that's like the old way of doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't.
These kids are like, no, Nick and James, we don't have to make it anymore. We just 3D print and laser cut.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you said, like there is a certain time for using certain materials. Certainly, like for the Muji pen hanger, like the MakerBot thing that I did, I was like, the only way that I really thought that I could even prototype that thing was purely through 3D printing.
And I think that was definitely the correct way to do it.
Yeah.
I think I don't think you really needed to do laser cut or like carving foam. Like 3D printing for that project was good.
But yeah, I think it's good advice to, consider the project at hand and consider, like I remember in school doing really like ergonomic forward type, handles and things, and being able to like sand off a bit more of the foam or whatever,
or glue that dust back on. You ever had to do that? Oh, that's bad.
Did you do that?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh no.
But I have used a lot of Bondo though. You ever have to use Bondo?
I never used Bondo.
Or I know some people use like spackle or something.
Yeah.
That's your additive process. You add that stuff back on when
No, but I think it is project dependent. But the thing is that a lot of places that you're going to end up working won't necessarily have a full shop at your disposal. So, what do you do if you only have a 3D printer at your disposal?
Yeah, and I don't think that just because you don't build things, you're a bad designer. I just think that there is that extra little bit, that extra little inch of value in actually physically creating.
Right.
And, maybe I might argue, if you want to be like top of your game, top of your class, like actually make the thing that you're rendering out.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my opinion. But.
Well, I had another question for you, which is like, oh gosh. Sorry, I'm totally blanking. We're gonna have to cut this out.
Oh no.
But
well, I'll say this. I think about my strap chair, right? Mm-hmm. The strap chair was a making thing,
right?
The whole idea behind that was that I could just make it right then and there,
right?
And I think there was just a lot of value in that. Mm-hmm. I mean, a sketch is a sketch, and a render is a render, but the physical strap chair it's a chair. It's a full functional object that I can use.
Right. And there's a certain satisfaction to completing a project like that where you can actually legitimately interact with it and find out and prove to yourself and to the world
that it's a real thing.
I
mean, our job is to make physical consumer products. Mm-hmm. So getting as close as you can to that goal without actually having to manufacture something, I think would make you a better designer, in my opinion. But
yeah, I think that there's something to that. I just think about the scenario where you're working for a company where you don't necessarily have the resources and the space to do things like that. And
for sure.
Is there a good substitute?
And I think the substitute
for that.
Yeah, and I won't say that I think you should make fully finished prototypes or physical aesthetic models. I think the cardboard and the foam is a way to go. I mean, whatever company you're working for surely can afford cardboard,
right?
If they're paying you a salary,
right.
And I think there are avenues, like you said, clay plus 3D printing. There are avenues to get you to that physical stage of the design process. But yeah, that's.
Then how does that then feed into the VR world?
Oh, I don't know.
And VR sculpting.
Oh man, how do we bring VR into this? I think VR is a separate thing. I think VR is actually before the model making stage. From my experience, VR sketching has that creation phase. It's kind of a free-flowing subconscious state that I'm in when I'm in the virtual world. I can just create concepts on the fly and see them in 3 dimensions, but not actually touch them. So I think the next step would be actually touch them. So you had to take it out of the VR into the physical.
Right.
That's where I see VR fitting in. But it is encroaching upon that modeling phase of like putting cardboard together, hacking stuff together. It's encroaching upon that, but it still lacks that physical touch.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I think you make some very valid points. I don't think that you have to be a maker to be a good designer, because
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah. I certainly don't consider myself a maker, and I often use my MakerBot that is my maker, in substitute of doing something physically with my hands. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. I think in the sort of jobs that I've been in and the sort of projects that I pursue in my own time, like, I'm not making those overly ergonomic things. Like, I think if I were working for like, Black & Decker, DeWalt, like, some sort of power tool company or something like that, maybe I would get more into that type of model making. But for the type of simple geometries that I'm often creating, I mean, all I really would need from a model is just a sense of proportion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, I can just whip something up really quickly, on the computer and print it out.
Yeah.
And verify it. I
think that was a good juxtaposition of our viewpoints. Should we get some questions?
Yes.
We had a question from Rodrigo Loret. He says, "Do you guys think good design is measurable?"
Oof.
That's an interesting question.
It's a very interesting question. I feel like it could be an entire topic.
Yeah.
Is good design measurable?
He's almost saying he kind of wishes that there was like a better business bureau for design, like a better design bureau or something, where like there was some sort of gauge of like, oh, this product has 4 stars on good design bureau.
Isn't that what Supreme is?
No.
If you get that Supreme logo slapped on the product,
it means it's good design.
It means it's good design. That's the Better Business Bureau.
I mean, we do have those institutions in forms of awards. You got the Idea Awards, or like, I guess you have the Red Dot, arguably. But I don't think necessarily a design award constitutes a good design.
Right. So what to you constitutes a good design?
That's a whole, like, that could be a whole podcast. I feel like obviously a good design is the perfect combination of beautiful aesthetic and, perfect functionality.
Right.
Maybe not perfect functionality, great functionality. So it's those two things. I think you can have something that's beautiful, but not functional, and that's art. And then you have something that's purely functional, but not beautiful, and that's engineering. And design falls in the middle.
Right.
That's a very general statement. But I don't know if there's some sort of way you can measure that. Like, is there a literal, like, checklist of good design?
Yeah.
I think almost what Rodrigo's asking is like, or is it Rodrigo or Rodrigo? Oh, I said Rodrigo, right?
Yeah.
They're asking, is there a way that I can, like, have my design and then pull up some sort of list and say, oh, it has a 1-inch radius fillets and this and that. And that. Is there a way to actually measure good design?
I don't know. I don't think so. It's very difficult. I mean, you can sort of use like proportion, sort of like you can try to use things like golden ratio to figure out.
That's a whole nother thing.
Your like if you have the good right proportional aesthetic and
I would agree. I think design is subjective.
I think it's
subjective to a lot of degree. I don't think it's purely subjective, but I think a lot of the minutia of like, is this radius big enough, or is this line break in the right place? Mm-hmm. Like those small details of proportion and balance and shape and form. That's all subjective. Mm-hmm. We have a gazillion different like glasses, drinking glasses. They all have different shapes and forms. Mm-hmm. It's hard to judge which one's better than the other.
Right. But I will provide a counterpoint to that, which is I remember my old manager telling me this story about when he worked. He was an older gentleman, worked at Nordstrom when he was really young, and he was in charge of like the sock wall or something, and he was telling us this story about like you have all these socks of different patterns, but realistically, what people are going to buy are the black and blue socks. I think design is kind of subjective up until the point of sale, and then I think there are items that just sell better than other items.
So are you saying that the measurable part of good design is how much it sells? Because I don't know if I can agree with that. Like, there are a lot of bad design things that sell well, but does that mean they're good design? Like, I mean, you think about like the fidget spinner or like some like tchotchke product that like sold millions, mm-hmm. but it used ball bearings in the place of weights. Mm-hmm. You remember the first fidget spinner? It had the tri shape, mm-hmm. and the only reason those 3 extra ball bearings were on the outside was just for the weight.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could spin it.
Yeah.
You only needed the ball bearing in the center, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like,
I think you go down a dangerous road if you're looking for sales only.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't think that sales should just be completely ignored at the same time.
What about this as a measurable asset? What about people posting on social media about a product? I mean, you think about when you see, I mean, I don't know if you've done this or not, but occasionally I go on Instagram and search up some of my products I designed, mm-hmm. For brands like Chuck It or JW, these dog products.
Right.
And I'll see dogs like using it, and the owner's like, "I just got a new toy.
Yeah.
Fido loves it."
Yeah.
Is that a measurable asset?
I'm not sure, because sometimes I feel like people are just searching for content. They're like, "Oh, I bought this thing. Check it out." Like, are they actually happy with it, or do they just want to
post it on social media?
I mean, I think that there's definitely something to the share. Because, like, I don't know. I have definitely seen certain products shared. But it's like, I'm just kind of thinking about, like, something like the Werner Panton chair. The cantilever one-piece plastic chair.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
This, this chair has achieved a level of infamy. And it's purely aesthetic, and I would say not very functional. I would say that, like, obviously it functions as a chair, but it's like, to move it around is a huge hassle. I don't know why anybody would use it for a dining room chair or anything like that. But it's like, it's this iconic design.
Yeah.
It's like it's the designer's design chair that everybody has adopted. I mean,
this is a good topic, because now we're getting to the point where designers can fetishize design so much where their designs aren't even good for the public, right? Like in the example of this chair, like it's a beautiful chair, like aesthetically it looks amazing, but functionally it kind of lacks a bit of that everyday chair that you just need, and so it kind of fails at being a good design. It fails
at being a functional design.
Yeah,
but
isn't that part of good design?
At the time, it was a revolutionary, like, technology to be able to do that chair. Like, Werner Panton had to go to a lot of factories to find someone who would make that chair.
Is it injection molded?
It's I'm not sure if it was injection molded initially, but I believe that it is now. I don't remember the process.
Okay.
Initially, it might have been injection, but I think it had to be reinforced in some way. I know that now it kind of has like ribs underneath, like where the knee breaks.
Right.
But yeah, I think I just think it's so interesting because, like, any sort of interior design magazine you look through, like, you'll find a Panton chair, and it's like, is it good? Like, people like it. It has sold well throughout, like, and it's iconic. Is it good?
I think the consensus is that as of now, good design isn't measurable. We don't know. I think there's some culmination of different factors that can point to a good design, but I don't think there is a analytical way to measure good design.
Yeah, I don't think there's a purely analytical way to do it, but I do think that it's again this development of a type of intuition around design.
Yeah.
But
that was a great question, Rodrigo. I feel like we should have just made that whole podcast, but thanks for sending that in. We have another question coming from Dan Knoppenberger, and his Instagram handle is @Knoppenberger, burger with an E. He must be from Germany.
Knoppenberger.
You want to read this one?
Yes. Dan says, after listening to the discussion about not getting the dream job right out of college at the end of episode 21, I had a question. I just graduated in May and I don't have any industry experience, and I've been struggling to get interviews in and around New York. Internships, junior staff, whatever. I'm more than willing to cut my teeth for a few years to get experience and learn how to become a better designer. And do you think I'm being picky about location? I really haven't searched anywhere other than New York City.
I mean, this brings up a good question. Are people too... we had the last week's question of, like, getting your dream job, or maybe it wasn't last week. It's a common thread. What about getting your dream location? Some people, like, could be happy working at a coffee shop as long as they're in New York City or San Francisco, or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you decided to move to New York.
Well, it was funny. I remember in school I had a professor, my portfolio professor said, you guys can either get, there's kind of two directions to go in your career, right? You can move to a city that you really love and just find whatever job you can to get by until you eventually find something. Or you can apply everywhere around the entire world for any job that is maybe closer to your dream job, right? And so I took the second path. I was like, I don't really care. I could go anywhere in the world as long as I get a really cool entry-level job. And so that brought me to Texas.
Yeah.
And, I was right out of college, fresh out of college. It didn't really matter to me. I was, like, excited to move to Texas and experience what that Texas lifestyle is like, But, yeah, I think after a while I realized that there was a lot of value into the second path of, like, moving to a place that you really enjoy.
Right.
So I mean, my suggestion for Dan is do what I did. Like, get that experience in, work hard for 3 years, really build up your portfolio, really build up a lot of understanding of design. And then you have a lot more freedom to go off on your own, to venture out into these dream cities that you might have.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I kind of think about...
Has New York City been a dream city for you?
New York.
You were raised in Pennsylvania, so you're kind of been close your whole life.
There's not a lot of work in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That was one issue.
Well, Philly's an up-and-coming city, but...
Yeah. But New York, I don't know. I visited New York, I think my junior year of college. Again, Reed Schlegel. He had a bunch of friends up to his house in New Jersey, and we came into the city. For the longest time, I was like, I don't want to live in New York City.
Really?
And then I remember visiting, and we went to the High Line, and it was just as the High Line was opening. And I just saw the city in a completely new way, like completely different eyes.
That's kind of interesting.
That's a testament to the High Line.
Wow.
It gives you...
And the High Line, just to inform everyone that doesn't know, it's a park that was built on an old subway line, but it's one of those above-ground subway lines.
Elevated rail, yeah.
So it's essentially a park that kind of runs through a bunch of skyscrapers.
Yes.
In a way, to someone who doesn't know the High Line.
Yeah. It's really awesome. I think what it did for me was just completely change my mind about New York, because I always saw it as this very intimidating place, this place that kind of like is like claustrophobic, and you think of Times Square and it kind of exposed me to those hidden oases that are in the city.
Right.
That's when I got the bug. That's when I was like, I really want to move to New York. This is something, because I had decided not to go to a city school and to go to Virginia Tech, which is in the middle of the mountains. Beautiful area. But I think after that experience, I was ready for New York.
Right.
And what I was going to bring up was I actually met up with a guy who reached out to me on Instagram, CJ. I don't remember your full name. I'm sorry, but I met up with him. He was traveling through New York, and he wanted some advice on internships and jobs and things like that. And I was telling him the story of my friend Oscar Salguero, who, when I came to intern at Quirky, he also came to intern. We were in the same class together. Reed got us in, and Oscar couch surfed for like 2 months.
He just randomly slept on people's couches.
He was so dedicated to staying in New York.
Yeah.
And like, and even after the internship was over, I don't remember that he had a steady place. But he was so determined that he was going to be in New York, and he found his way. Like he eventually, like, granted, he had the internship coming into it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he knew he wanted to be in New York. He knew that, like, absolutely he was going to be in New York, and he figured out how to make that work.
I think that is a really good story. I think the advice for you, Dan, is if you know that New York's the place you'd be, or you need to be, and there is no other option for you, like you are dead set on New York, then like figure it out. Like couch surf, go work at a coffee shop, like do whatever you have to do to make it happen.
Right.
But I don't know, if you are more open-minded, then maybe taking the more career-oriented choice is the better option. Yeah,
build up the portfolio, build up some connections, and then see about any opportunity. Because I hate to point this out, but there's something that is keeping you from getting these internships. Now, I don't know.
Have you checked out Dan's stuff?
I have not.
Okay, I haven't either.
So I don't know if it's just because of your location currently, or if it's, something that needs to be improved with the work or the way that you're representing your work. But, something's got to change. So you have to figure that out for yourself.
Yeah, I will say, like, Dan, if you're sitting here, like, applying all these places and you're getting no's, you're not even getting callbacks, then, yeah, like, it's time to, like, sit down and, like, either figure out how to do some sort of side project, like start pitching your portfolio to other designers, getting feedback, refreshing it. I mean, you got to figure it out. But I think that, that's a really interesting. It's a good conversation to have because everyone has a little bit of a different viewpoint on it.
Right, and apply to those fall internships.
Yeah, we're coming up with fall internships, Dan. You'll get something.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for sending that in, Dan. We had one more question from Joel. His Instagram handle is at Joelden _ ID. Sorry, Joel. I have no clue what that is. Joel says, what do you guys wish that you had done differently from the start? And which are the most common mistakes that new students usually make? And I think Joel's alluding to what do you wish you had done differently from the start of your college experience.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Or maybe earlier, but I think the start of understanding what industrial design was.
Right. Well, it's funny because I didn't start out college in industrial design. So I wish that I had started college in industrial design.
As a filmmaker. Right?
Yeah. Actually, I think that there were a lot of valuable lessons in what I did before I entered into design, but I think one of the things that I would have done differently is try to be more open. Like, I found this in a lot of chapters in my life. It's often a little bit of a struggle for me to kind of push back or push down these preconceived ideas that I have about certain things.
Okay.
In order to grow and mature. Like, I remember my first art class in high school, and this was an art major, and they taught continuous line drawing. And I was like, what is this? Like, I know how to draw. I don't need to do this. This is ridiculous. But later on, I figured out how valuable it was. And now I incorporate that into my design process.
Your whole sketching style.
Yeah. I remember in design, like when I was doing the transfer studio, I kind of thought that I knew what I was doing. And then it suddenly hit me that I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. Because it was a completely different way of thinking. And I think being more open to the lessons and not also feeling this pressure that I have to know exactly what I'm doing from the start. That you're in school, so there's an openness of exploration.
I think that's great advice, James. I kind of like echo that to some degree. I think the thing I wish I would have done at the beginning is I wish I started Instagram, like as when it came out.
Well, when did it come out?
Oh, I don't know, really early. But I don't think I started it too late. I also don't think it's too late if you're just starting one, for one. But I guess obviously we can't go back in time, and my advice is obviously null. You guys can't start an Instagram now because it's whatever. I mean, you can. What I'm saying is like experiment.
Yes.
Really try new things. Really try to do something that no one's really doing right now. I think it's so funny that like people will come and say like, "Oh, Instagram. I want to start a design on Instagram and start posting sketches." And I'm like, "That's awesome.
Yeah.
I completely support you." But like make it your own. Like experiment, try new things. I think it's every time I hear the saturation thing, and it happens a lot. Like people will say, "Oh, I don't want to start a podcast. The podcast atmosphere is so saturated. There's a gazillion podcasts. Obviously, no one will listen to me." Like, who cares? Go do it, experiment. Maybe you can make some other element that's completely new.
Right.
And I forgot to mention this in the weekly updates. I'm doing this right now on Instagram. Like, it's so funny that people are like, oh yeah, the Instagram community is so saturated. No one sees my sketches anymore. Well, yeah, you're not doing anything new. Like, listen, like what I'm doing right now. I am building some sort of contraption so that I can do a time lapse of me sketching on the go, like walking around. So you see my sketchbook being static, like, you know, it's attached to my phone.
Yeah.
So I'm sketching, but I'm like walking around.
Right.
I guess by the time this airs, I'll have already done it, but we're recording before the print's done.
Right.
But yeah, that's my prototype that I'm working on. Like, guys, it's so easy to do something different. Like, you're a designer. Apply your design methodologies to every aspect of your life, not just design.
Right.
I don't know. That was my soapbox.
Really quick. No, that's interesting. I've also, well, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've also been kind of rebranding my Instagram. Yeah,
you've added more graphical elements to it.
Yeah.
Kind of like almost a mini portfolio to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. It's so funny to me. I think that, like, when I get a low like count on something, because essentially, like, since I've been posting these new formats, I've been getting like 300 likes, which essentially equates to like a pat on the back and like nice try.
So 300 is low for you.
300 is low for me. And yeah, that sounds really egotistical right there. But you know, to me, it's like, I don't know, something feels right about this and I want to see it through.
Yeah.
You know, I want to figure it out and see it through.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of being open.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's...
I think our advice is the same. I mean, yours is being open and mine is experiment, but they're almost one and the same.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, that was a great question, Joel. I mean, hopefully you can implement that into, or hopefully anyone can implement that into their life right now. It doesn't have to be because you're a student or whatever.
Right. I feel like I'm constantly relearning the lessons that I learned as a student.
Here's another thing. We're kind of going long, but I also think that if you aren't trying new things and experimenting all the time, then you aren't moving forward.
Right.
Like, if you aren't actively pushing yourself farther and farther, then you're falling behind. There's no standing still. There's no like being consistent and like, I'm going to sketch the same thing every day for 365 days. Like,
right.
Okay, sure, you'll get to a certain point and everyone will give you a clap on their hands, but guess what? 3 years down the road, you're still sketching that same like thing on your sketchbook or whatever. It's going to be old.
Yeah.
You got to keep pushing yourself and making new things. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks, Joel, for sending that.
That was a tirade, Nick. Stop screaming. Stop yelling.
But also, we wanted to say that if you guys have your own questions, feel free to send those in to minordetailspodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
And, of course, every week we like to give a shout-out of the week. And our shout-out of the week this week is Space Goose.
Oh, yeah. So Space Goose, I posted recently about in my story.
And is this Space Goose, but Goose spelled with 3 O's?
Oh, with 3 O's.
Okay.
Yeah. So Space Goose, one word, 3 O's in Goose. According to their bio, they draws stuff and codes stuff. They are an artist, game developer, and programmer from New Mexico and California. But something that they do, which I love, so I think they're coming more from the concept art realm. And so one thing that they do is they take objects from around the house and interpret those into like spaceships.
Right. So it's like they took a picture of a shampoo bottle and then took the shape of it and kind of outlined the shape and then created a spaceship.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
My favorite one has to be the OXO peeler, the green OXO peeler that they turned into a spaceship. It's so good. It's like, it's so awesome, and it kind of reminds you about how much how much inspired and inspiring things there are around you. I mean, just thinking about your home and just the amount of design work that has gone into your surroundings.
Right.
You know?
Like, how can you can make a spaceship out of anything, really?
Yeah. But just like even thinking about the designer of the peeler, like you're filling your home with like these individuals' work.
Right.
You know? And then using that as a starting point, as an inspiration for another creation. I mean, I think, and this maybe could be a topic sometime, but like I think that like hip hop got it right. Like in terms of sustainability, we should be remixing the things around us.
Oh, right. It's all about remixing.
You know,
it's true.
Everything's a remix. And
Space Goose is remixing shampoo bottles.
Yeah, and making dope spaceships. So
check them out. Doing some cool stuff. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Our music is by KYOSHY the Kid, and of course James has been working that YouTube game. Check it out. We're on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces.
Yes.
Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and yeah. Anything else? Are we forgetting anything?
No, just like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe for sure. And give the thumbs up on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm at Nick P. Baker.
And I am at iDrawOnReceipts.
See you guys.
Later.